right, yeah, get all your noises and bodily fluids out of you.
There we go.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Okay. All right, let's do this. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Radiant Damage Podcast. Here are your hosts. We're here today with Cleric Alyssa again. Always a blessing to us. I'm Paladin Ashley. This is Paladins Jake and Harley. Hopefully I'm gesturing at the right people. Awesome. And we just wanted to, I know that there's like a lot of talk about all sorts of stuff going on in the geekdom as of right now. There's always news, but we actually want to talk about something that already happened, something that took place last year. We had a very eventful 2019 in geekdom, and arguably probably the most eventful thing to happen, probably the weirdest thing to happen in 2019 was the disaster that is the Game of Thrones Season 8 finale, the series finale of Game of Thrones. If you have not seen it and you don't want spoilers, this is not the episode for you. We will see you on the next one, because that's all we're going to talk about today.
There will be tea.
There will be
You've
tea.
been living in another world and haven't heard anything about the Game of Thrones finale.
Yeah, basically, Cleric Alyssa and I have actually not seen all of Game of Thrones. However,
We know almost everything about
we
it.
know everything that happens. We know the characters, and we were just as upset as writers to find out what they did to these characters as people who've been following the show. Maybe not quite as upset as like diehard fans or anything. We didn't have the emotional attachment, but we were just as infuriated on y'all's behalf. So,
Well, it's not hard. You don't even have to be a long-time fan to be like, well, what did they do?
I didn't start watching until after season 6, so yeah, there's no time limit at all. So
yeah, that's true.
I tried starting it twice. I didn't start technically watching the show till season 2. I tried the first season. I had to try 2 times before I got into it. I gave up after like the first 3 episodes aired. I was like, I don't think this is for me. Then I went back and rewatched the first season. I was like, all right, now I'm in. All right, they got me.
I hadn't really.
Last couple episodes got me. I was like, all right, you got me. All right. I see what you did in Game of Thrones.
They hooked
I
you.
didn't really give it much thought when it was coming on, like the earlier seasons. Like I kept seeing like pictures of dragons and swords and all that, but I never paid much attention.
Nice. That's perfectly fine. I think I kind of avoided it because everybody was talking about it. It's the same thing that happened with me in Star Wars, okay? I started watching it way too late because, to be honest, no one would shut up about it. So I was just like starting to get irritated. And I was like, this sounds like such a cool show and it sounds like something I'd be into. But then also, it's hard for me personally to watch because of all of the violence and specifically the sexual violence. It's just a little bit much for me. A lot of people kept saying, this isn't an Ashley show. And I'm just like, I believe you.
You might have saved yourself a problem down the road from not starting and getting into it, like the rest of us.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I could have just let the
not
last.
as disappointed as we are.
I could have just let the last 2 seasons pass, but I didn't. I could have just let it pass, but
you tried to stop. They just kept you.
I went through this show 3 times. 3 times I watched the entire thing.
Wow, yikes.
I remember Jake so hyped for the final season. I was like, final season's coming, Jake. It's going to be awesome.
We were all hyped. We were sharing memes. Everyone on Twitter and Facebook was like, yeah, I'm wearing my Jon Snow gear. I'm wearing my Daenerys wig. And it's like, we're doing all this. We're all ready. We waited 17 years for the last season. And then the last three episodes happened.
We got White Walkers versus Dragons. It's going to be awesome.
We're not there yet.
We're skipping ahead. So real quick, Cleric Alyssa wanted to interject with something. I think just her own experience getting into not. So
I distinctly avoided it because I heard of all the sexual violence and just all the sex in general. And I was like, and it was a few years ago, so I was a bit younger, and I was like, I don't want to. But I did ignore from the beginning that I was pretty sure it was a good show. Like, I could understand when something's not for me, but that doesn't make it bad. It just means I know this is not for me.
Exactly.
I kind of wish I could, but I just couldn't stomach the more, I think a good term is nihilistic take.
Fair. That's a fair take. I think
Very
it's a little
suffered, death everywhere. Do you? I don't want to partake, but I did learn about it because you kind of couldn't learn about it and be on the internet.
Yeah, you couldn't learn about it and just avoid Game of Thrones. Like it's an international phenomenon. So
also I ended up being a fan of Jason Momoa's, but definitely not because of Game of Thrones, because I know what kind of character he plays, and I'm like, I never went to see him in that light, even though most people know him in lights like that from the beginning, because that's a role he's been in a lot.
And
he
was actually.
Yeah, but I was like, I don't want to see him do that, especially this sweet-looking actress. I don't think I want to watch that.
He was downplayed a lot too.
Yeah.
That's a weird ass meet cute.
Yeah, and I'm like, I think even no matter how well they write it, it would be jarring to see it turn into a romance, considering how it started.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I get it, but I don't think I can watch that.
Yeah.
It's not exactly one of the healthiest relationships on the show.
No, not.
That's saying something, because there's no healthy relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
To be fair, there's hardly any healthy relationships on Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Real quick, let me just go ahead and explain for the viewers why the hell I'm dressed like this. I just decided to be a little bit festive, and the closest thing I had to something that Daenerys would have worn is this really nice house robe that my mom gave me.
Look at that flap.
I am pretty. No, you're fine. It's fine. You're allowed to touch it.
Don't think on camera.
It's fine, y'all. It's fine. Anyway.
Oh no, his dad is upset.
Yeah, his kids are being
going with the flow. Just going with the flow.
Anyway, so
I got my Fire and Blood hat. Just got this for Christmas. That is the Targaryen house. So got it for Christmas. I specifically told my parents, like, you know what? You know how upset I was about this show. Please. I was half joking, but they,
I don't have any Game of Thrones swag except one of the box sets, and I can't wear that. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My box set is over there by my TV, which is where it will stay for years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, mine too. Now.
So let's go ahead and kind of dive into where did you guys, because you were more invested in the show, actually like following it and all of that, from pretty much the beginning, not when it first aired, but from the start of the show. So since you guys know a little bit more for sure about the show and the characters, when did you think it's first started going off the rails and just becoming kind of like contrived as we now know it to be?
Let's see. I would say, I think, like most people, the last 2 seasons. There have been moments in the show where you can see where the writers took a little bit of a leap here and there with characters. They were like, well, we need this character to be here, so we're going to have to move this around or do something. We're going to have to shortchange other things they normally wouldn't in the first 2 or 3 seasons.
Right.
And things would just happen. A lot of time jumping, which I was okay with because I don't want to watch a whole season of you going from one place to the other again. But,
Walking Dead.
Yeah, exactly. I don't need to see a whole 6 episodes where you're walking from one place to another or on a boat for 6 episodes. Like, come on, we story to tell here, people. So, I'd say in the last 2 seasons where I noticed the characters started behaving differently than they normally would.
Yeah.
Jake.
For me, see, I binged the first 6 seasons just straight through, so it wasn't as much of an issue for me because I'm just you're watching it one after another. I hear a lot of people say after season 4 is where it kind of off the rails, so that's where George R.R. Martin stopped working on the show, and then they who must not be named started just going on their own. And
Yeah.
yeah, so a lot of people say
Like-
that that's when it started going off the rails. But for me, I guess I started noticing like the most blaring one is like Tyrion. He just got
Yes.
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
more and more incompetent, and it's like, what happened to this dude who slapped the king, and now you're this, like, yeah.
It's
So,
yeah. It became the show that was trying to win Emmys instead of being the show that made it what it was. Like
Yeah.
I think I can put it this way: Game of Thrones towards the end became the show where spoilers, because we're spoiling everything, I guess at this point.
Yeah.
And the big thing, the big thing in the first season is they kill Ned Stark, the main character of the show.
Yeah.
well, it's
So
Sean
by
Bean, it's
the
not a
end,
spoiler.
really, that's not
It's
not a huge
because
spoiler.
it's Sean Bean.
Everyone knows that one, but by the end, the show became the show where they would have saved Ned Stark instead of making the bold choice to just say, "No, he's dead. He's gone. Over. Like he's not around anymore. Sorry, he doesn't serve the story. Like his death changes the story in a positive way. Like it's the thing that influences everything else now."
Mhm. Yeah. Well, he wasn't exactly like Dad of the Year or anything, so I'm pretty sure, that's
He
Yeah.
he's about the closest you're gonna get to quote unquote a good guy, even though
Yeah.
there's no good guys in Game of Thrones.
There's really
The
not. Yeah.
The Starks are the closest thing you're gonna get.
I
Yes,
think
exactly.
John is probably the only one that's more morally sound than the other characters. I think
Really
he's I think
side
he's
would
supposed
say.
to be. I think he's supposed to be that guy that is actually a little better than the rest.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
and he kind of got a lot of that from Ned, but
Yeah.
The thing with John is what you're talking about, that like heroic thing in the world of Game of Thrones, is the reason he gets shit on so much is because he doesn't fit into that world. Like he
Yeah.
values loyalty, all these things. Like he's stupid to a point of it's gonna get him killed, and it kind of
America.
killed. So
They
Yeah.
put Captain America and put him in medieval times.
yeah, like he's too good for that world.
At least Cap knows how to strategize, though. I don't think he's cut out for leadership, to be honest. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad he abdicated, because I don't think he was right for that.
I can't imagine him doing a heartfelt speech to encourage other
Yeah.
people. Like, I can't imagine him. Like, people seem to like him, and yet I don't see him as a charismatic character.
Mhm.
He's the most I've seen is it seems like a very good neutral mask for the audience.
Yeah. Because he doesn't emote a whole lot. He does emote, but just not all that much, to be honest. So he's a little more subdued as a character, which does make him more like a mask for the audience.
Mhm.
As Alyssa was saying, that's very true. And I think that is why a lot of people relate with him, because if it's one of those characters can only be either relatable or completely the opposite. It just depends on how you're viewing the character. But okay, so what I have here, I actually took some notes on some of the things that the writers the writers did an interesting
Get into that. I have some notes on that too. So.
Yeah. So basically there is something called planting and payoff. And I've heard a lot of people, and you guys can elaborate more, feel free, but I've heard a lot of people saying that certain things were foreshadowed and planted all throughout, the first several seasons. And then there was no payoff for that planting, and it ended up being a misdirect. And a lot of it is probably that they realized fans were theorizing online and they specifically went the opposite direction or just a random direction, so
Yeah.
like with Arya killing the White Walker King, right? That was out of and totally a weird choice, right? So
See,
let me know what you think
about that. I actually didn't mind that. That was
At the
something else I was totally cool with. I mean, I thought it was like, because the way it was set up, I mean, she kind of disappeared during the battle, and it's like, for me watching the episode, I was like, right before she came, I was like, oh shit, where's Arya? It's like, John is useless, screaming at a dragon like that's gonna do something.
Yeah.
And it's like,
stupid walk into the dragon.
Theon's
Yeah.
dead. Theon's dead. Bran's watching Endgame do Worgen.
Yeah.
So I mean, I thought it was cool. I actually didn't mind that aspect.
I think
what
I had a problem with was what happened after. It wasn't Arya killing the Night King was awesome moment, but
Yeah.
that was it. That's
Yes.
literally it. The story ended for the Night King there. Never got a resolution. Like,
it's.
well, what do we do now?
I think it's
Yeah.
Like, what are the consequences of her doing that? Nothing turned out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that people were talking about planting and payoff because it seemed as though the Night King is that how he's referred to, the king of the White Walkers, right? He was supposed to be kind of like Jon's nemesis, and so I think that's why people were like, it was a subversion of expectation, which was really weird because there was all this foreshadowing and stuff before that. All for Arya to stab that foreshadowing straight in the gut. So that was really interesting. But yeah, I agree with you that I would have normally been fine with it. I do think that it was a little bit contrived that all of a sudden that made the entire army just fall and into dust, into ice and dust.
Feels a little
Fair, they established that early on.
It's that cliche fantasy trope, didn't
Yeah.
Sauron die and then all the other enemies died?
Yeah.
Well, they established early on that Valerian steel kills White Walkers, and if you kill one that created other ones, it'll kill off all its. Kind of like if you stab the lead vampire, it kills off all his sired offspring. Something like it's basically.
So
that was established.
So that was established.
I'm glad it was established because otherwise that would be pretty.
It's a tired trope, but I feel like okay, you kill you defeat the main guy, and then it's like a bunch of fodder left. Like you just spend hours just fighting a bunch of random zombies. It's like for hours and hours, and it's like, okay, what's the point of this? So there's pros and cons. There's pros and cons to it. I feel. I mean, I understand people's frustration with it. It just for me, I guess it doesn't bother me too much, but I get it. Yeah.
It was a weakness created out of convenience. It's like we have to have a way to get rid of some of all that. We built this massive army, like they would slaughter everyone instantly. We have to figure out a way to be able to even the numbers somehow. It's like, oh well, if you kill one that created the other ones, it'll kill all of those. So
like Tony Stark threw a nuke
around it.
Tony Stark threw a nuke at the Chitauri ship, and they all just sort of shut down like they're robots. So same kind of thing. Yeah, same kind of thing. I guess, but for me, I think it would have been good if John had actually fought him. Yeah. They didn't actually fight. I mean, Danny tried to burn him, and he just kind of tanked it like it was nothing, and then nothing, and then John didn't even get a chance to, fight him.
It would have been one of those times when subverting the tropes that Game of Thrones is known for. They should have just done it. They were like, you've been building up to it and keep showing they're gonna each other. Just do it. Like
exactly.
Like, we want it now. Like you hinted at it too much. Have them do it. Have them fight.
I'm gonna say
even 2 seconds. Have them do it. I don't care.
Not that it wasn't funny, but the episode before there was a whole scene where Tormund talked about a giant's milk or something like that, and it was a little funny scene, but you put that in there, but you couldn't put Jon Snow fighting the Night King. So
we have full seasons dedicated to nonsense, but we can't have him take one sword swing at the guy.
Yeah, he would have lost, but.
It would have been nice if even they just allowed a fight, even if someone else got to kill him.
Absolutely, I think that would have been more sad.
If him having, even just him, he should have had some kind of reaction, because if this guy was such a big thing to him, he should have gotten some kind of something.
Some sort of justice. I mean, instead of just screaming at a dragon for the whole hour.
Arya coming in and saving Jon for the last second would have been cool. Jon's gonna cut off Arya, bam, he's dead. Boom. Great moment.
They had a legit stare down in like season 5 or season 6 finale, or just like, okay, you're building this. Like they were staring at each other from across the water. It's like, okay, where's that payoff?
Could have led to a different ending. Oh man, that would have subverted expectations.
It's like,
Ooh, that sounds romantic when you say it like that.
I'm sorry.
Ew.
Shipping it. Okay. So
Oh no! What did I do?
disappointed team dad. So anyway, so what did you guys think of what was it, the Iron Fleet that shot Danny's dragon straight out of the air from like a mile away? Like,
Yeah,
and
she
it
was.
hit.
They were literally
God.
airborne, and a bunch of rocks that wasn't there in the first shot suddenly sprang up, so she couldn't see the ships. And
No.
bye bye, dragon.
No, and the thing is, it's like this huge harpoon gun, right? There's no way that a gun like that would have been able to make that shot. There's just no way, especially not with an intelligent being the target of it, like where it could easily just see that and dodge or something.
Well, they tried to set it up earlier in the series. I think was it season 7 where those they were called scorpions. I think that they were like
Yes,
they were used to kill dragons in the past, and they had one and. They tried to kill one of them, and when she burned the Lannister fleet, but it actually hit him, but from a distance, from a legitimate distance. So I guess technically they did establish that, but it's like,
Well,
I don't know.
let's talk about the fact that Danny, that happens. Dragon gets shot, and you think, okay, Danny is going to learn from that. Says, oh, by the way, maybe I should come up with a different strategy of going after all these giant scorpions shot my dragon. No, she turns around and does the exact same thing, but because of plot convenience, like I guess she has plot superpower, she does the exact same thing and it works out somehow.
Yeah.
It's like you established that's a problem. You didn't fix the problem, you just did the same thing again and it worked out because it needed to in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny that literally one of the writers said that Danny kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet.
That was one of the.
Let's not even get into that.
That was one of the unmentionables. I mean, yeah.
D&D forgot the story they wrote.
Yeah.
Yes, they forgot their own story.
Even I've heard and seen that little clip so many times. It's so clear. You're saying Danny, but you're actually mean you. You, dude. And just like that's so not a good reason.
They were like, well, we were hoping the audience would forget that certain things happened.
They really don't trust in the intelligence of their audience at that point.
No, that is a huge issue with today and like any kind of content where they just do not trust the intelligence of their audience. It's like we're not stupid.
Which is the opposite of how Game of Thrones became Game of Thrones. People became cultural phenomenon. We were like, oh, this show's awesome. It does all the things on a fantasy show to do, but subverts all the tropes. Then it turns around and does it. It does all the stupid stuff that people complain about in everything.
Yeah, unfortunately. What I found the most disappointing, and I'm going to go ahead and say this right now, is how they demonized Danny through Tyrion by pointing at all of the evil people that she killed and saying, we should have seen this coming. She killed all these evil people. It's like, no, but that's good. Perfect, a good guy. This world doesn't get rid of evil people. You kill them.
That is what kind of frustrates me because it's like, you expect me to somehow make her worse than these other characters who have done stuff that is just as brutal, just because she happens to use dragons to do it. If you'd have given Cersei 3 dragons, what would Cersei have done? She would have done what Dany did way before she did that. It's like, I mean, this is a little graphic, but Sansa, Arya did some very questionable things. With very stone cold faces, or enjoying smiles, but we praise them. That's cool. That's just for revenge. But Mad Queen bad. So,
but she's
not allowed to do anything bad. And the thing is, it's really weird how much the writers really wanted us to be rooting for Sansa and like the Starks in general. And it's like, okay, to the point where they actually meta write or they meta wrote for her and made it so that like she just somehow had a bad feeling about Danny from the beginning when she didn't have any reason to, and like she guessed a lot of it. Seemed like she kind of almost had some sort of foresight that she shouldn't have had. It was really weird, and it wasn't good at making anyone sympathetic towards her, at least from what I've seen
They
of the show.
So, like,
understand the intelligence of the audience.
Yeah.
Because everyone was like, why does she dislike her? And they're
And
like,
she
oh, they
hates
won't
her
know.
so
They'll
much.
just know that she's
just
the
because she just
good
doesn't like her. Yeah, like
For
out of
me, I
plot.
For me, I guess it's just I kind of understood that she would be a little distrustful, just like the rest of the North, because of who her dad was. Naturally, her dad was the Mad King. So I mean, obviously, you're gonna wonder. It's like with Supergirl, why they were distrustful of Lena Luthor because of who her brother was. It's just that suspicion is gonna be there with the North, and I thought that was all fine, but they kind of went the next step with Sansa, as if she had some sort of foresight that she was gonna torture everyone. So for me, I was a Sansa fan until season 8. Like you made everyone stupid around her just to make her smart. So
again, they made decisions to fit their plot, not to fit the character. They were like, we need this character to do this, so we have to make this character be stupid now.
Yeah.
Like I can there's the thing with Danny's story arc. You can see in there little hints where if they wanted to play up throughout the entire series, Danny slowly being turned, like going the Targaryen, her dad's route. There's a story there they could tell, but it seemed like the entire series was going against that. That Danny would, even though she was doing horrible things, they were saying no, but she was in the right to do these horrible things, and we were supporting that. But no, they just flipped the switch at the end and said, no, she's evil. What are you talking about? She's been a psychopath the entire time. It's like, no, she's not.
Yeah.
Not compared to everybody else in the show, too. Like everyone, what are you doing?
That goes back to what I was saying. It's like you want me to put her as a worse person than, this guy or that guy. Tyrion blew up the whole Baratheon fleet, or what was it, Stannis' fleet, with wildfire. And it's like
Dragonfire.
Dragonfire, that was okay. Cersei literally blew up the Scepter Baylor. I can't pronounce it.
Yeah.
Just to kill off the
killed all the
High Sparrow people.
Yeah, the High Sparrows.
Sacrificing a bunch of innocent people just to kill those dudes. And it's like, there are like you said, like there are things in this show that Dany has done that you can easily use to just say she gets worse and worse and worse. Like you see it is part of her storyline. She's always wanted to be different, but it's still part of it. We're not stupid. We get it. But it's like you flip this switch and it's like, no, you were wrong this whole time. She was bad the whole time.
Yes, and that's really ridiculous, especially because, okay, I just don't understand the logical leap between when she just had her soldiers, pledging their allegiance to her, and Tyrion just looks up at her and they use like Nazi symbolism and stuff like that, for that scene. And suddenly Tyrion thinks she's just this terrible ruler. Well, I mean, like the writers framed her with Nazi symbolism, but he's not from this earth. He shouldn't know what that looks like. I mean, I guess it's a dark theme or whatever, but like dark colors. But like that was a really strange time for him to suddenly just decide that she needs to be stopped.
Was that after she did war crimes though?
Yeah, with Tyrion, he had just found his brother and sister under the rubble, so he was really pissed off. That's why
at that point Tyrion had been like, all right, she's crazy, we gotta kill her.
So that makes sense because there was a pretty emotional scene that obviously got him his Emmy when he was crying over Cersei and Jaime, even though they could have stepped 10 feet away and been perfectly fine. But whatever, we won't go there.
That
was a thing though. Yeah, the death of Cersei was a really, really that was a really frustrating thing. And I think Alyssa's got some really
I got
intense
some feelings recently when I found out
how Cersei died. Yeah.
Specifically what they said about it, because one of the writers said at the end of it all, she was just a girl. who was scared.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
hmm
do you know this character?
A scared little girl.
Yeah.
Is what
They
you're
don't know. Ugh.
I was like, ew.
They
I
forgot
got up,
about it.
walked around for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, ew, gross. What? No, no.
Yeah. It was really infuriating because she really was one of the greatest villains in fantasy, in fiction. She's up there. I mean, she's really made the list, and a lot of it is because of how wonderful the acting was from Lena Headey. I mean, she did such a phenomenal job carrying that character.
And it's a
making
crime.
you could see her conniving every time you looked in her eyes. You knew there was something going on behind them. Like, it was really, really incredible work. And for them to just reduce her to just, okay, now you're just gonna cry and be scared.
Get scared for your baby.
Yeah.
It was a crime Lena Headey never won an Emmy for that.
Uh-huh.
I understood her not winning this year, but for the past seasons,
Yeah.
No.
it's ridiculous
Yeah.
that she never won. So
That's awful.
Also,
I mean,
That's
Just like her being such
before
a
we
big
get into
villain.
the more negative, oh, sorry, Alyssa, keep going. Sorry,
Oh,
I interrupted.
it was. No one was happy with that. I feel like no one was happy with that death. Like, it wasn't satisfying for all the people that wasn't like righteous justice, and it wasn't like they wanted to make her sympathetic, and I'm like, was she though? I feel like everyone was just unsatisfied with that.
Yeah.
see, for me, by then I had checked out, so I didn't really care.
Yeah,
I was just like,
And that-
what?
you realize
Whatever.
that was
You guys should have Yoshi walk by right now. I just really wouldn't care. That's honest to God, I wouldn't care.
like that was the last 2 episodes. We're like, we're done. We're checked out. Like we're all done. Like
There's a picture of Homer Simpson where like, when my favorite character dies in a show, I watch it like this. He's like slouched on the couch. That was exactly me watching the last 3 episodes.
Yeah.
That
It's just
a collective.
yeah.
Yeah. That
Mhm.
sucks.
And the worst part is, I think the worst part is the ones who didn't hate it, because a lot of people loved the last season, which is fine. We all did get different things from it.
Yeah.
I was just saying, like, how the people who loved it like to pretend that you didn't know what you're talking about. Like, they're like, oh no, you should have seen this coming. You should have seen that coming. And
It's like,
yeah,
it's
like they were like
regurgitating what the writers had said.
Yeah, it's like you were also acting like we're not smart. It's like we were watching the same show you were. We get it.
Like the things the characters are doing are counterproductive to what the entire show has been about.
Yeah.
Like Jamie
characters-
Lannister.
Yeah.
Jamie literally undid his entire development in like a few scenes.
Yeah.
He killed the Mad King to save a bunch of innocent lives in King's Landing. Yet he told Tyrion's like, I never really cared about the people at King's Landing. It's like, what?
That's so stupid. Then why did you completely destroy your reputation and like sacrifice your honor to save everyone? That makes no sense.
Yes.
They had to have a cool fight scene in the second to last episode, so they had what's his name survive magically, so they could have a last minute fight scene.
Yeah, define cool, because that was the most out of place thing.
Exactly.
It's like, why are you even fighting? Like, what is the point of this?
Writers thought it was cool.
It's like, why are you fighting? What is the point of you fighting right now?
Well, didn't you know they set up in at the beginning of the season their rivalry over Cersei, and it's like, fuck you.
Well, I could say the same thing about Tyrion, which was why I was so confused about him suddenly demonizing Dany about killing Cersei and Jaime, because I mean, he didn't give a shit about them. He hated them. As far as I knew,
at least his sister.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that he really hated her.
Yeah. I think that so he and Cersei were always at odds, but I feel like there was always some sort of love there on both sides. Like, for me, at least, that's what I got. I always felt like there was like just a tiny fraction of love there, which is like Cersei could have just had him killed when he went to.
I guess, yeah. They should probably have had some consideration for him, I guess.
Tyrion and James absolutely like loved each other as brothers. Like they genuinely cared about each other. It's just what happened with their dad that kind of turned Jaime. he was like, you shouldn't have just straight up murdered our dad. That was his thing. He was like, you straight up murdered our dad in the toilet, bro. Like, you can't do that. But that was really their only like true like.
But even then, I mean, once they came back to King's Landing, they were fine. You know, they were fine at Winterfell. They loved each other, and I think there was some small love for his sister.
Yeah,
there at least. So I mean, she tried to kill him like 3 times, but
yeah.
I feel like it was half-hearted. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, just half-hearted murder attempts.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense for the show.
I think it's
actually,
just.
Yeah.
No, I just think that there was just some sort of sibling love there. So maybe, I guess.
It very well have been. Yeah.
It helps that the actors are just so good at playing off each other that you're like, oh, these people genuinely like each other, and it comes through on screen. So you buy that there's some part of all of them that love each other, but in that sibling way of even though we don't like each other, we still kind of love each other. You kind of just have to accept that. Some part of us cares about.
Okay, the intention for we're back. Yes, you get bonus points. Okay, so yes, you were saying. I don't remember who was speaking last. I think it was Harley.
Oh, I was just saying that we were talking about how the siblings all like each other, and like some parts they love each other, but even at points in the story when they hate each other, that there's still a love there. It's just Cersei's side, it's a little bit less. Jaime's side, he genuinely loves Tyrion. He protected Tyrion for all the years. He had to go with his family, like he had to side with his father and his sister because he had a child with it. So, like, and not to mention the other, not to mention they all like Tyrion genuinely loved Cersei's kids, and but what happened to them was not. He genuinely, as much as Cersei blamed him, she was really blaming herself, but she took it out on Tyrion. She knew she caused her children's death, but she could never face that, so she blamed it. Put all that hate towards Tyrion.
I can see her daughters kind of being his fault because it was his idea, but Joffrey did it to himself. Joffrey did it to himself.
Yeah,
Cersei is directly to blame for Tommen. It's like this is 1,000% your fault. Why he did that to himself.
Tommen and is it Myrcella? Her daughter's
Myrcella.
name?
Yeah, Myrcella. I was gonna say Lyanna. This is a different character.
She got screwed because of family politics, like family work, like because of what happened with Oberyn. That's why Myrcella ended up. Yeah, which Tyrion should have saw that one coming. Somebody in that family should have saw that coming. With like, oh, you really think this is gonna you're just gonna send your daughter off to marry the guys marry the family that you just killed their patriarch? Nah, that's not gonna end well.
Not asking for a great ending to that wedding, for sure. Okay, so can you guys explain to me, or was this also kind of a weird character choice? I saw that Jon Snow, he refused to kill Dany at first, and then when Tyrion told him that needs to be done, and then he straight up went and put her down anyway.
I know Kit Harington explained it, and I think it for him, in his eyes, her speech, her Lex Luthor, they don't get a choice speech at the end. He thought about his sisters, and that because Arya had already told him, it's like Sansa's never going to bend the knee. She's never going to do that. And then her whole speech is like they don't get a choice. That included his sisters. So it was like you're going to go after my sisters. Mm-hmm. So and he heard the word Winterfell during her Nazi speech. So I think that decision, at least what Kit Harington said, he's like. That he made the decision at that moment because it's like he thought about his sisters. So also, that was that.
Keep in mind the entire North hated Dany. Like they were not going to bend the knee to Dany. Like they bend the knee to
Jon. A lot for them. A lot.
That's true. Yeah, but because she has dragons, she's evil clearly. So
Even though I think
Well-
one of them died while protecting them, right? Didn't that happen?
I
Did
know
they?
that.
Did I know one died, but did
She-
it die
she
protecting,
tried-
or was that something else?
She lost one of her dragons.
Yeah.
Going to save them from
Yeah.
when they got the sample zombie.
These are some ungrateful people.
Yeah, there's some.
Yeah, one dragon died and got sent to the White Walkers because she went to save John and all the people who went beyond the wall. And,
Mhm.
For some reason.
To get
Which
a
is
sample.
which is kind of a dumb plot in its own.
uh,
It's kind of a
yeah.
dumb plot. I mean,
Again,
hey, let's
leads back
let's
to the
go.
last seasons. We
Let's
just
go.
wanted cool.
Let's go over the wall to get a White Walker, even though they're like thousands upon thousands. But let's just get one.
Right, to try
and
and
walk-
convince one person who's not going to care anyway and who's not going to fight with you, which they all know.
Who this
Even
is.
Tyrion. Again, not convenient.
Tyrion was defending trusting her. Tyrion kept saying, you should totally trust Cersei because, like, I don't know, she's
Because magically we need to this
that's
season.
the reason.
Yeah.
That was so weird. He just took stupid pills towards the end there. It was really very
That's
strange.
just like they just as soon as. No, go ahead.
Of the last two seasons, every characters who were in a relationship had plot armor. Fan favorite characters suddenly had plot armor. Like Braun, there's no reason he should still be around by the end. Although it's funny, but Tormund, as much as we all love the guy, he should have been out. His
Yeah.
fake
He was legitimately
gone.
gonna die in that battle.
Everyone who was beyond the wall should have died except John. Honestly, like that should have been the cost of that, because it was a stupid decision, and to show that it was a stupid decision, they all should have died. Danny still lost the dragon, and that would have caused a rift. That would have advanced the plot the way they wanted, where Danny and John have a legitimate problem with each other now because she lost a child because of John's stupidity. John and Tyrion's stupidity of going beyond the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Off of that, but no.
Yeah. Well, and Tyrion, I remember it was really funny because Peter Dinklage himself actually kind of the closest he's ever gotten to like outwardly being really outspoken about disagreeing with the writing was with the putting with Tyrion saying that the civilians should be in the crypt when the dead will be raised.
Yeah.
It's a weird choice. Like
that
you
was a
want
weird
to
decision.
die?
Yeah.
So stupid.
I mean, I feel like they should have, gotten every civilian out to some nearby town or something. Just as a precaution. I mean, there's not just Winterfell and King's Landing. There are other places they could go, and they're on their way here. So, yeah.
It was cathartic to see him be like, I guess he wasn't as smart as we thought. It was just like almost implying this is not what the character would have done, but I had to do it.
Well, keep in mind all those interviews with all the actors about the final season where they had to lie and pretend, like the famous one of Emilia Clarke, best season ever.
She tried to warn us a year before. She tried to warn us.
They tried to warn everyone.
A year before that.
Every time they were asked, how do you feel about the ending? Or it was like, I guess it's okay.
I think
let me get out of this interview now. Cut it. We got to balance.
I think Kit Harington literally said it's disappointing. I think he said that in an interview.
He
literally said disappointing.
I saw that. Yeah, disappointed. Yeah, because they asked how he felt, and he said disappointed. Yeah.
Those two who laughed in an interview when who was it? Jamie's actor was saying, like, they asked Jamie about how he felt about his character arc by the end, and he came up with some BS answer or something, and the guy who played Davos, I think it was him, who laughed, and he was like, really?
Yeah, he said he was fine with it. Like, he was fine with the
something like that.
decisions. Okay. If you're fine with it, I'm fine with it. You wanted Jamie to run back to Cersei like a little puppy? Okay.
He should have killed her. He should have killed her.
You see, that is exactly what everyone thought was going to happen.
Yes.
Because it's like, I thought, here's my theory. I thought that the baby wasn't going to be his, but it was going to be Euron's, the other guy. I thought it was going to be his, and he was going to, that was going to be a whole big thing. But besides that, I just thought that Jamie would kill her. It would have been kind of poetic for him doing it, and just
that was the whole prophecy from the beginning of the show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because her
By-
younger son would kill her.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Okay, going back to planting and payoff. They planted so many things that they then did not pay off. That's one of those things. That's really dumb. So
Or they came up with a convenient bullshit reason to like have it pay off, like a version of it not paying off that they claimed was it paying off. It's like because they can always use some excuse that like, oh, prophecies aren't always true. Like they gave that line to Tyrion about the king that is promised, or whatever. Could have been Danny or John. It's like, oh,
they made
Wow.
a point. They made a point to having Missandei clarify that it could mean prince or princess. They had to go out of their way to have another character explain this, and it literally amounted to nothing.
nothing.
Like,
Because
what
it
was the
wasn't a
reason?
princess.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a queen, I guess. That's super weird, and it wasn't related to her. Okay, anyway,
Yeah.
very weird. Weird choices. So what did you guys think about Drogon deciding instead of burning Jon, who just killed his mother, to burn the throne?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought this up. I'm so glad you brought this up. Oh, I've been waiting to talk about this the whole time.
You want to go first, or should I?
Yeah, I gotta get this. Alright. Then you can have the rest of. Oh man, like if I had known when we started Game of Thrones that they were going to give dragons a meta level superpower to understand symbolism and metaphors. Holy crap. Because not only did the dragon target the throne, the dragon could sense the throne was the cause of all these humans' problems somehow. Not to mention, he burns the throne that spent like 40-something days of the most ancient badass dragon to help build that throne. And he burned it in 5 seconds. Like, they make a point, apparently, like, I haven't read all the books, but they make a point to say, hey, this throne was fused together by another dragon, the oldest, ancient, strongest dragon there was. And this newborn dragon that's barely like 2 years old takes it out in like 10 seconds. Like,
Yeah.
Probably not then.
Yeah. Oh my god.
That's an extra layer I didn't even know about.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing, though. I don't know if you saw this, but they released the script for that, and it turns out that he was just shooting fire in a rage, and the throne got in the way.
That's
bullshit.
yeah.
I don't know.
That edited version. I bet you fucking anything. That is
He
bullshit.
looked directly at the
That is
throne.
bullshit. No, there's no fucking. That is so stupid. The shot pans around. No. They have done many things to try to undo their mistakes. This is another this is another example of these writers and how fucking cowardly they are, okay? Because they did not even show their faces at San Diego Comic-Con after the ending of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
They canceled the trip.
They knew what they did.
They knew what they did.
They said they had scheduling conflicts.
Do it.
And Seth Rogen called him out on it too. Seth Rogen was at the what was it, Preacher panel. Because he called him out on it. And they asked him, like, is the Preacher finale bad? He's like, well, I'm here, so the Game of Thrones dudes are.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
There's like a 3-minute clip of him. There's like a 2-minute clip of him just roasting the whole thing. So.
No, yeah, that's so oh my god.
They didn't show their faces until the Emmys, where they collected their Emmys. And now they don't have to answer anything because you got your Emmy. He's like, okay.
Oh, at the time they probably were trying to protect that Disney money too, but now they don't even have that anymore. Although
which is kind of hilarious because there's like this whole Twitter thread of a panel that they did. I don't know if you guys saw it. Where they basically admitted that they had no idea what the hell they were doing the whole time.
Yeah.
It was like they didn't even know what a writer's room was, and they were writing every episode themselves. And it's like, okay. It was a whole long list of things that they just proved that they had no idea what the fuck they were doing. And the funniest part about that is the very next day is when they announced that they weren't on Star Wars. So it's kind of like Disney was like, yeah, we're not going to do this.
Disney might have made a mistake on this one again.
Maybe don't show that you're willing to throw away quality.
Yeah,
Maybe don't make that so clear.
exactly. Yeah. Oh my God, that just makes me so mad. So
That's such a lie.
I know.
Don't gaslight us.
gaslighting
Yeah.
you.
They just think we're all stupid.
Directly at the
He
throne.
avoided the one who murdered his mother. No, he was clearly, and he stayed there for a second. If he was just blowing
Why?
fire, he would be everywhere like a dragon
Yeah,
do, which I've
exactly.
seen.
Which
So again, he meta level targeted the throne.
Yes.
I think it was Jason Momoa. It was like, was it him or someone? They were like, why didn't they haven't burned John? And to prove he's a Targaryen, he just doesn't die. That would have been pretty cool, but
That's fine. That would have been, at least that would have made sense.
Yeah.
That would have made
Yeah.
some.
A hint
I mean-
of coincidence, like knowing he would die killing her in front of her dragon.
I
That
mean,
would
he wanted to die at that moment.
I don't want
but
to.
He wouldn't have. Yeah, he would have been naked, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Again, plot convenience at that point.
And see,
It's like, nah, we gotta wrap it up.
that kind of adds to, like, I feel like they tried to force so much onto you. Like, they tried to say this is like this or this is like that. So like them saying like this is symbolic of what really killed Daenerys, like this throne and the power. And this is like they did so. I feel like
The dragon wouldn't target symbolism.
yeah, I feel like they tried to do so much of that. Tried to tell you like this means this, and this means that. But yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously, the show became the exact opposite of the show. Ugh.
Yeah, you're supposed to show and not tell. That's just basic writing. But the thing is, one of the things that the writer, I think it was Bainoff again, that he said about themes was that they're for 8th grade book reports. So I guess he doesn't really care too much about deep writing. Here's what I think happened, and this is the only bone that I'm going to throw them because they don't deserve that many bones thrown at them, is I think that they knew how to adapt material that was already written into a show form, but they didn't know how. They don't actually know what they're doing when it comes to writing at all. And once they ran out of material, they should have admitted to that. Honestly, they should have admitted to that. That would have been the honorable thing to do and say, hey, George R. R. Martin, HBO, whoever the heck, gets to pull the strings on this, you need to find someone who can actually finish this material with these characters because we don't know what we're doing. That would have been honorable. That would not have been the money hungry is what they wanted, and they wanted their Emmys, and so they wanted to get as much clout from this as they could, and they kept with this project that they clearly didn't have any skill to handle after a certain point once George was no longer a part of the picture. So
and
that's
I think HBO was ready to kind of end the series too because it's an expensive show. And I think all the actors were ready to finally move
money at them for like 3 or 4 more seasons.
HBO wanted them to go for like 10 seasons. George R. R. Martin said we can go.
I heard the opposite. So
he said he can go for like 13 seasons, but they wanted us like, no, let's wrap this up.
Yeah, the writers just didn't want to anymore. And they literally said, I think they actually admitted that the only thing they were interested in getting up to was the Red Wedding, and then after that they kind of didn't really care anymore like what happened.
Oh wow, I didn't even hear that.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, and I know
that makes sense considering where the story takes a turn at. It's like
that's
what kind of the big event of the show, and then
that's still the most.
Jake said it earlier. It was like that. Comes a point like Red Wedding was what, season 3?
Yeah.
And season 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is when it took a turn. So that makes sense now in retrospect.
Yeah.
The writers were like, I guess we got to do all this other stuff.
You see, I think 9 seasons would have been perfect.
Yeah.
I think that would have been able to at least stretch it out enough.
At least one more would have fixed some
quote unquote enough, because I didn't have a problem with the Night King dying in episode 3, and then the last 3 episodes could be about taking down Cersei. Danny ascends to the throne in the last episode, and then you can have a whole season of her descent into madness, and then you could get to what you were you can get to what you were going for, because they kept throwing around the word Shakespeare.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, there's something really Shakespearean about this episode. And it's like, okay,
That's right there.
I feel like that's what you're going for. You're trying to make this poetic. You're trying to make this a sort of beautiful tragedy, but it's not, because you didn't earn it.
Off.
It's like, stop using that word. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You missed the touchdown, bro. What are you talking about? Like,
They think they
Okay,
nailed it.
I love that Jake was like Shakespearean reason. Touchdown from Dad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like
well,
that's what they were going for. Like that whole scene. It could have been a whole season of her getting progressively worse and worse, and having a lot of it from John's perspective, where it's like, okay, this is too far.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
how
It has to stop.
supposed to know that he was thinking of his sisters during that moment when he suddenly decided to kill her?
That was-
Nobody's supposed to. How could we know that? How could
That's
we
such
know?
Yeah.
actor headcanon in order to do the scene.
Exactly.
Yeah.
that's some shipper headcanon right there.
Well, see, yeah, that's another thing. A lot of the shippers, they thought it was specifically because of Sansa. And I know you probably know a lot about the whole
man.
John and
I
Sansa thing. I meant to bring this up. I meant to bring this up earlier, but a lot of the shippers thought that Sansa's hatred for her was because she was jealous of her in terms of John. And it's like, I feel like that's worse. I feel like that's worse because they grew up as brother and sister, whereas they didn't know that they were related.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, at least they just found out about this, but you shipping two
I mean,
people
there's
who
a lot
grew
of
up.
that in there, but it's still yucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's
Yeah.
incest. It's incest all the way. But I mean, at least they didn't
Game
even
of Thrones is
know.
known for incest, but that's some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
That's real weird. Yeah, that's just.
I didn't even want to get into the people that ship John. Like
I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know it was a legitimate thing until season 8. So yeah,
Oh,
I had
see?
no idea.
No, there's
Enough,
actually something
guys.
to like discuss about Sansa's jealousy that was really interesting. So there's actually a quote that one of the reasons why Sansa was just innately pissed with Daenerys and didn't like her from the get-go was because Daenerys was pretty and Sansa was literally jealous of her. And that's from one of the writers. Again, so sexist. So sexist. So yeah.
That was in one of those videos I watched that you posted.
Yeah.
I missed that one. So, oh god.
It was like, it was like an afterthought, and it's like, oh, and because she's pretty or something like that. It's like, okay.
Ugh. God.
Yes, right. Appropriate response.
Old man is not happy with that comment. Oh.
Yeah.
Understandably so.
Here.
And another thing that we did want to discuss, which again does harken back to, there is definitely blatant sexism in the show, in the writing. Specifically, this particular thing is really pisses me off. Is the fact that was it Sansa was raped, and it was at that point that she actually is considered more of like a woman after that. It's framed as though that's kind of like a terrible thing to say, but at the same time, then she later seems grateful that that happened to her because it made her a woman. It like made her an adult or something. Like she grew up from that, and it's like that's really.
They try and use Arya and Sansa's conversation to justify her attitude, where she's like, "You never would have survived what I did." And she throws it back at her, and then at the end. They're talking about it. They're like, "Oh, well, we're stronger each other now because we've been through what we've been through." It's like, stop trying to make it okay. It's not.
There was another conversation she had with the Hound after the battle at Winterfell, when she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm stronger because of Ramsay and Cersei," and it's like, okay, that was like a really big thing that people were pissed off. It's like,
fight would be better. Stronger in spite of them.
Yes, that would have been better. But the thing is that these writers seem to think that women having compassion, any character who shows compassion is weak. It's very strange, but especially it seems to happen with women, with female characters. They're not supposed to be passionate.
Yeah.
That's a really big thing in like young adult fantasy. It started with like Hunger Games. It's like you had to be a Katniss Everdeen, like this sort of like cold, unemotional person. I mean, this sort of killer who can just she can take down 85 dudes, even though she's like 300 pounds lighter than them. And it's like you have to be that to be a strong female character, when it's like that's not necessarily true.
Basically masculine in order to be that.
Well, if you watch Game of Thrones, you're like, in retrospect now thinking about it, you're right, because all the male characters who show compassion, they make a moment out of it in the show, but when it's a female character, it's treated, like you said, it's treated like a horror film or something. It's like, oh my god, just have something nice to that character. But if a male character shows passion for another male character or anything in the show, it's treated like it's the most special thing that's ever happened in the show. Like anytime Tyrion has a heartfelt moment, it's woohoo, Tyrion! But if Sansa has a moment, they brush over it completely.
Yeah, she's being naive in that moment. If she's being compassionate, she's being childish.
Just a girl.
Every female character doing something nice is naive. Every male character is celebrated.
Yes, it's so true. There definitely was a very, very skewed bias when it came to the male versus female compassion. It's really weird. Definitely there's got to be something going on there. I'm not sure what psychological, I don't want to really touch that, but I'm sure some subconscious thing there. So is there anything else in particular that y'all wanted to add? Because I mean, this is a cathartic moment. We can vent about things that bothered us. Feel free to vent about something specific. I've been bringing up certain points that bothered me, but feel free to go for it if you have something.
Looking over notes here, I think we covered. We pretty much at some point covered everything I would talk about.
Did we get to your hot take though? Because you mentioned that in the.
Oh, that was all of this is basically my one long hot take. Just the entire conversation we had is pretty much me agreeing with what you guys are saying. All my hot takes are your hot takes. So I guess the only other one I had was, the entire series, they make a point. It's called A Song of Ice and Fire. It's about the White Walkers versus dragons. Sorry, you didn't want it to be about that. You should have called it something else. It gives people the example. Oh, they make a big deal about dragons being born for the first time in a century or something like that. The Targaryens were gone, and the White Walkers are a reflection of the oncoming threat. All the politics and all this crap doesn't matter. The threat is beyond the wall. Nobody listens. And they all, that's what the story was building to. But I was like, nah. We took care of that for that one episode.
I feel like that applies to really good. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was just saying Dragon Lady bad. That's the end game.
Yeah,
Dragon Lady bad. The end of show.
This is what we showed you in the very first scene, in the very first episode, where she was standing on that balcony, looking out longingly at the sunset. And if you didn't see it coming, you weren't paying attention.
You weren't paying attention.
That was murder in her eyes, not a longing for you.
She just got sold to Jason Momoa for an army. But,
I couldn't watch that.
Yeah.
Even that sentence, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
That's what was so great about her, though, is that she took that, she rose through it, she overcame her circumstances, which should have been impossible to overcome, especially for an outsider. And she used her power that she acquired to free slaves and help innocent people. That was her legacy, and it should have been her legacy until her personality actually shifted. You know what I mean? But her personality stayed very consistent up until the very end.
Until they needed her to change her personality.
Exactly. Yes. Go ahead.
No, I was saying a lot of the arguments against that people have is that it was all self-serving. I guess. Like it was like she only freed the slaves for the army.
Every character. That's
didn't.
every character in Game of
But yeah,
Thrones.
that's my point. It's like, okay, so I see everything you're saying
Yeah.
about Daenerys. I get it, but it's like you're acting like she's that much worse than these
Right.
other 95 characters that have
The
done.
entire rest of the cast. Like,
Ned Stark chopped the head off a teenager in the very first 10 freaking minutes.
Yes.
So it's like I'm
know
not
that.
gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's no innocent characters in Game of Thrones. That's the
Yeah.
whole point of that story.
I mean,
Like everyone's bad. There are no good guys and bad guys.
Yeah, Arya literally like killed an entire family, chopped
And
them
then
up,
fed them.
fed them to her dad, and she smiled. So it's like, what am I supposed to do with this?
That should have been the person who went crazy by the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was taught to be an
She fed them to Argus Filch.
Yeah.
I feel like she was kind of.
I feel like there was more foreshadowing for her to be the crazy mad queen
Yeah.
than for Daenerys. There
Just
really
crazy.
Yeah, that was insane.
That's
I
how
think, like, for me, I never like. You can see it. Obviously, she has those pepper moments of the madness coming out. Sort of like she's brutal. She's, Tyrion even said she needs somebody to check her worst temperaments. You can see it as part of her character.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, I never liked the Mad Queen idea. I thought it's like, okay, her dad was crazy. Of course, her daughter's gonna be crazy. You don't have to do that. I
definitely don't like that.
I don't.
I was never. I was always
Yeah.
hoping that they would kind of pull back on her a little bit because there were moments where like you remember what you can see. It's like, okay, you don't have to do.
The better story arc.
You don't have to burn everybody. You can just put them in prison. Yeah, I was hoping that, like with the Tarleys, she burned the Tarleys. It was like, you didn't have to do that. You could have locked him up. Tyrion told her that, and she's like, I swore I would never see a man in chains again. Like, that's not the same thing. You're keeping the prisoner. So, yeah. So, I never liked it. But if you had to actually do it.
They could have subverted that by having Dany let them live. They could have subverted what everybody knew what was going to happen. She's been burning all these people. We know at that point, watching that episode, that she's going to kill them. Like, there's no point for her not to, the way the story's going. So, do the unexpected thing. Have her not do it.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Even at the last second, the dragon goes to burn the family, and she goes, stop.
Yeah.
That would have been cool, but nah. You got to have her be equal at the end.
I like to say that I never... Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
They can't do positive subverting of tropes. That's just not their way.
Yeah. I just say I never actually thought she would end up on the throne. I never actually did because I didn't think she was actually the most competent ruler. I didn't think she was the most competent ruler. I didn't think she was the best. I mean, she's very, especially in season 1, she's pretty naive. A lot of people, talk crap about her for season 1, but it's like she was pretty naive. She was a 16-year-old girl just thrown into this, but I think that she just wouldn't have been the best ruler. But with the right counsel around her, she could have been. If Tyrion didn't get dumbed down. Yeah, you had Tyrion, you had Missandei, you had Grey Worm, you had Olenna. All of them died except Grey Worm and Tyrion, but you had Jorah.
Let's talk about Grey Worm and the Unsullied. Like,
oh God,
Grey Worm, there is no way he is okay with Jon just being sent off to the wall, beyond the wall with the wildlings. Like, dude just watched his queen, the woman he pledged his loyalty. Grey Worm has nothing but the Unsullied, and he's just okay with the family of the guy he hates now. He's just gonna send them off beyond the wall and just be okay with it. So he's gonna take him and just bounce. It was like, no way. He would have tried to murder Jon that moment they said that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're on the wall. He would have went crazy and tried to kill Jon in that moment if that had been any way realistic to that character.
Yeah. I do have one more take that I'm sure, again, I'm pretty sure we're all on the same page with this one as well, but there is one more very blaring problem with Game of Thrones is the person who won the Game of Thrones and how they won the Game of Thrones was very, very weird and contrived and self-congratulatory for the writers. It was incredibly weird.
They have the weirdest egos I've ever seen. I don't understand their particular type of.
That is so strange. So Tyrion, being on trial, being a prisoner, suddenly he's able to talk his way out of, not only, I'm guessing, out of his chains, but apparently he's able to talk his way into everyone suddenly having a democracy or an oligarchy at least or something instead of a monarchy. And it's like, that's weird. Why is that allowed?
I was gonna say, as soon as Danny flew off with Drogon, I completely checked out of the whole episode. And I swear to God, this is my exact face watching the rest of it. And so I just like, oh my God, you guys, I don't know what you're doing. Yeah.
I knew I was through the moment I'm watching the finale, and I keep not caring. I keep turning away from the TV to go back to doing whatever else I was doing. I was like, normally my eyes are on the TV, but I was like, I don't. I guess we got 15 minutes to wrap this up. Like, let's go.
They tried to have this whole epic moment of like this whole Avengers suit up with all the Starks putting on their crowns and their gear. It's like, dude, nobody cares anymore. Like, nobody cares about the Starks anymore because you fucked over everyone else just to prop them up. You know, we used to like the Starks, but you made everyone else.
Yeah. And then suddenly they became just as bad as the Lannisters, where they didn't really care about anyone outside their family.
I'll never trust her because she's not one of us.
Yeah, that's what the other bad guys said. Exactly.
Exactly.
And it's like that. See, that's another thing. Why did Arya not trust Dany? What reason did she have? I can see Sansa, but what reason did Arya have?
Yeah,
But Arya just randomly, I don't trust her either. It's like, you haven't even talked to her. You were smiling. You were smiling at her dragons when she came. Like, what?
Exactly.
Why do you suddenly not trust her?
Y'all sure like her when you're using her, don't you?
Yeah. So I mean,
Arya was a fangirl of Dany until the moment she showed up. And did Arya suddenly turned and was like, I don't like her. It's like, you just saw him 5 minutes ago where she's like, dude, dragon. Awesome.
George R.R. Martin gave them like an outline of where things need to end up. So I don't doubt that this is how this will, end in the books. Like, Bran is going to be king. We get it. Dany's going to die by Jon's sword. Sansa's going to be a bitch. That's all going to happen. But it's going to be earned and explained better. And we'll be like, oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
If they
still
like
pretty I'll tell you, he's sitting back going, ha! Gotta wait for me to get the book.
I will say, just to be a nice guy, I guess. I will say, because a lot of people say that they just didn't care, D&D. I can't really say that. It's hard for me, as a writer myself, it's hard for me to say that they don't care about what they're doing. I think you can care. I think Dany was one of their favorite characters. That's always been pretty evident. I just think that they took an L. They just fucked it up. He's like, you rushed it. They rushed it, and they just. It's hard for me to say. They were working on this for 10 years. I can't say they didn't care. And as a writer, I will always say, if this is what you think belongs in your story, at the end of the day, you're the writer. You're going to make that decision. Pull the trigger if you think this is best for your story. But be prepared to know.
Be prepared for what people are going to say.
Just be prepared.
From the quality of writing before.
I've seen plenty of writers that write just for the paycheck though, and so I can totally see them not giving a shit. Like, personally, I'm way more jaded than that, unfortunately. So
I'm kind of in the middle. I think maybe they used to care.
I think they did used to care.
And then something happened, and their ego with all the massive audience, I think it really went to them because and then
that was in my too.
Where they could do no wrong.
Yeah.
So they kind of stopped listening and they lost their humbleness. And as a writer, when you do that, you got to be able to check yourself.
You can lose your creativity.
Yeah.
They bought into the Game of Thrones hype. They were. It became Game of Thrones to them before Because I mean, honestly, like think about it. Like that show does not become what it is because it sucked. Like people
Yeah.
didn't Game of Thrones because they thought it sucked.
Yeah.
They were like people expected a certain level of quality, and just by the end, something happened. I don't know if the writers,
phone it in.
yeah, like
Right.
they just kind of were like, I guess we'll get there. We got to get to all these things we set up. How are we going to get there? I don't know. Figure it out.
Well, and that's the thing is like, you know, another good example of them just kind of phoning it in and hoping that we won't notice was in season 2, they actually established that bells don't mean surrender. That should not have meant surrender for the city for King's Landing for whenever they rang the bells. That was not the city surrendering, even though it was in the last season, they made that somehow, but it was really strange. Anyway, so that was another thing. Then Tyrion suddenly says that is surrendering, and it's like, okay, well, what? That's very strange. And so it's things like that that just show I don't think they were paying attention anymore. I do think that they really just wanted to wrap things up. I don't think that they really were, it wasn't their baby anymore. It was just a means to an end at that point. And, you know, by then, and I just genuinely, I feel really bad for people who have invested because we wouldn't care. I mean, clearly it was a great show. We wouldn't care about how it ended if it wasn't, you know, we didn't even watch all of it and we still care. We care how it ended.
One episode.
Yeah, I've seen at least like that half of season 1 or the first half or something. I need to get back into it, but it's hard for me to get back into now.
I've seen clips upon clips to have the sexual violence.
Yeah. We wouldn't care if it wasn't good. Obviously it is. And that's what makes it so sad, you know, that it ended the way that it did. I think that's really frustrating. So
I was going to add that despite how the show ended, the final 2 seasons, even compared with all the other rest of the entire series, the actors, the production, they put their all into it. They're like those actors were acting crap they were getting. They were like they like to be fair, they gave Tyrion all this stuff to get him an Emmy, but he earned it. It was like he did that full justice. So like, I get it.
They were great.
I still say Millie was snubbed at the Emmys this year.
Oh,
yes. No, she lost. She didn't win, but
believe it. That's awful.
Like they really did give it their all for this last season. So So it's like literally the only people are upset at are the 2 guys, D&D.
Man, and rightfully so. For phoning it in. But just real quickly, is there anything else that we would like to add, or do you think everybody feel pretty cathartic, like pretty much? I feel like this was an emotionally cleansing time for all of us. Yeah, I feel like we're lighter for having spoken on this subject. So, all right, we'll go ahead and do our outro real quick. So, thank you all so much for joining us on Radiant Damage Podcast. Remember that if you liked this video, please leave a like and comment what you thought of the end of Game of Thrones. If you saw it, if you didn't see it, if you have opinions, if you don't, and you just wanted to say hi, feel free to comment. We'll see it, we'll like it, we'll heart it, all that stuff. If you'd like to become knighted in our medieval army, just click that subscribe button. It's incredibly easy. Stab that subscribe button and you will instantly become knighted. It is that simple. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.